Hello, everyone. This is Laura, and welcome back to Become a Fluent English Speaker. Today, I want to talk about something we all experience: difficult conversations. You know the kind. There's something you need to say. You know you should say it, but every time you think about starting the conversation, you tell yourself, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I once had a friend who kept arriving late whenever we made plans. At first, it wasn't a big problem. 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, I didn't really care. But eventually, it became 30 minutes. Sometimes, even longer. One day we had planned to meet at 6 o'clock. I arrived at 6. She arrived at 6:30. I was frustrated, but when she arrived, I smiled and said, "No problem." Inside, however, I was annoyed. A week later, the same thing happened. Again, I said, "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. I went home thinking about it. I knew I needed to talk to her, but I didn't want to create an awkward situation. I didn't want her to think I was angry. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. So I avoided the conversation. Then something interesting happened. The problem became bigger in my mind. Every time we made plans, I started feeling stressed. I thought, she's going to be late again. Instead of solving the problem, I was spending energy worrying about it. Finally, I decided to have the conversation. The next time she was late, I said, "Can I tell you something?" She looked surprised. I continued, "I really enjoy spending time with you, but when I'm waiting for a long time, I feel frustrated. Could we try to be more punctual?" There was a short silence. I expected an argument. Instead, she said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't realize it was bothering you that much." That was it. No argument, no drama, just a simple conversation. And I immediately thought, why did I wait so long? This experience taught me something important. We often imagine difficult conversations being worse than they actually are. Our brains try to protect us from discomfort. We imagine the other person getting angry. We imagine an argument. We imagine rejection. So we avoid the conversation, but avoiding a problem doesn't always make the problem smaller. Sometimes, it makes the problem bigger. This is especially important when you're learning English. Many English learners avoid speaking because they're afraid of making mistakes. They think, what if I say something wrong? What if the other person doesn't understand me? What if they laugh? So they stay quiet. But here's the problem. If you always avoid speaking because you're afraid of making mistakes, you never give yourself the opportunity to become comfortable. Confidence doesn't usually come before the conversation. It develops through the conversation. You speak, you make a mistake, you correct yourself, you continue. Then you realize, that wasn't so bad. The next conversation becomes a little easier. This is how confidence grows. The same idea works with difficult conversations in everyday life. You don't need the perfect words. You need honest and respectful words. Instead of saying, "You always do this," you can say, "I feel frustrated when this happens." Instead of blaming someone, explain how the situation affects you. Instead of attacking the person, talk about the problem. That's a small change in language, but it can make a big difference. There are 3 useful expressions you can remember. Can I tell you something? This is a gentle way to start a serious conversation. I feel uncomfortable when. This allows you to explain your feelings without immediately blaming someone. And finally, could we find a better way to handle this? This moves the conversation toward a solution. Remember, communication isn't about winning. It's about understanding. Sometimes, you need to say something uncomfortable because the relationship matters. Sometimes you need to ask for what you need. And sometimes you simply need to be honest. Before we finish, let's learn today's vocabulary. Avoid means to stay away from something. Frustrated means annoyed because something isn't happening the way you want. Awkward means uncomfortable or difficult to handle. Punctual means arriving at the expected time. Blame means to say that someone is responsible for a problem. Respectful means showing consideration for another person's feelings. Solution means an answer to a problem. Confidence means the belief that you can handle a situation successfully. Now, here's today's challenge. Think about one conversation you've been avoiding. Don't have the conversation immediately if it requires serious preparation. Instead, write down one sentence you want to say. Keep it simple. Keep it respectful. Then practice saying it aloud in English. You may discover that the hardest part wasn't the conversation. It was simply deciding to begin. Before you leave, answer today's question in the comments. What makes difficult conversations uncomfortable for you? If you enjoyed today's English listening podcast, subscribe to become a fluent English speaker for more stories, psychology, vocabulary, and practical English. This is Laura, and remember, sometimes the conversation you're avoiding is the conversation that can finally give you peace. Keep listening, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next podcast.